Claiming nearly 30% of the Earth's landmass, Asia is home to 4.75 billion people, which is about 60% of the world's population. The region is now the world's largest economy. Despite setbacks on the global stage, Asia has the potential for continued growth. China's recovery, together with a healthy domestic demand in India, will be the main supports of growth for the region. Asia also has the advanced economies of Japan and South Korea, contributing to the region's development through foreign investments and technology transfers. ASEAN, as the fifth largest economy in the world, is growing at a steady pace. According to the PricewaterhouseCoopers report, the world in 2050, as many as 6 emerging markets will make up the top 10 world economies. Of them, 4, including the top 2, are forecast to be from Asian nations. 2 other Asiatic states, Vietnam and Philippines, will also make a significant advance into the top 20 nations. What is more, West Asia continues to experience high economic growth. All in all, not only has Asia become the global economic powerhouse of our age and the most dynamic region, but it's also on an unprecedented upward trajectory. Thus, the centrality of the global economy is shifting to Asia. The region's economy is already similar in size to those of Europe and North America. And as the global economy seeks to recoup, Asia and Pacific is predicted to contribute nearly 70% of the global growth this year. Asia's strength is derived from its openness. The territory comprises some of the world's wealthiest economies and some of the poorest, large subcontinental powers as well as small states. This diversity has only served to strengthen the region's role in the global arena. I will expand on the main challenges. A, democratic values and human rights. Sri Lanka is the oldest democracy in Asia, with a parliament tracing its origins to 1835 and universal franchise sustained from 1931. Yet, our multi-party political system is not the norm in other parts of Asia. B, climate change. Climate change is a planet-changing, defining challenge, and the stakes are particularly high for Asia. Temperatures are rising twice as fast in Asia than the global average, which is also related to the escalation in weather severity and the frequency of natural disasters. Rising sea levels from global warming are eroding land and coastlines, imposing severe pressure on rural incomes, food security, and commodity exports. By the mid-century, rising waters will impact nearly 1 billion people in the Asia-Pacific region. It is regrettable that many as 8 of the 15 countries affected by climate change are from Asia. The region is also a key cause of the climate change crisis. We produce about half of the world's carbon emissions and has 5 of the largest greenhouse gas emitting countries. However, it would be appropriate if Asia could agree on a common timeline for achieving carbon neutrality. Considering the magnitude of loss and damage due to impending climate change, exacerbated by inadequate funding, Asia alone will require $1 trillion up to 2050 to finance these challenges. C, trade integration. The entry of the Asian juggernaut in the form of China, the ASEAN, Tigers and India have effectively changed the international economic order of the 20th century. Yet, these gains are at risk today as Asia confronts debt sustainability, decoupling, and economic cohesion, Sri Lanka being one of the first and worst affected. As a middle-income country, Sri Lanka accepted that A, time is of essence in resolving the issues of debt sustainability, and B, the only option available for vulnerable middle-income countries is to seek the assistance of the IMF to ensure multilateral coordination and cooperation in debt restructuring. We have now started creditors' meeting and hope for a successful conclusion before the end of 2023. Sri Lanka is dedicated to ensure equal treatment for all creditors. We want this exercise to succeed because our experience will enable more middle-income countries to utilize the IMF in ensuring multilateral coordination for debt relief. Needless to say that we in Sri Lanka and many other Asian nations are opposed to economic coercion, whether it by one country coercing another using its economic power or by indirect methods such as decoupling or friendshoring, manufacturing and sourcing only from geopolitical allies, contrary to the WTO. WTO system put in place 3 decades ago should not be bypassed for short-term geostrategic gains. The rules of the game cannot be changed arbitrarily. The losers will be the middle-income Asian countries. Sri Lanka welcomes the pledge made as the G7 Hiroshima leaders communique to reject decoupling and its strategies in favor of economic resilience and the economic security. To this end, G7 has undertaken to engage in a dialogue and follow a cooperative approach within the group, as well as with global partners, including developing countries. Ukraine war. Most of the Asian nations prefer not to be involved in the Ukraine war, though some in the West decry this as an overextension of neutrality. Nevertheless, diverse opinions on the Ukraine war have emerged within Asia. For G7, it's a direct invasion of Ukraine, a violation of the UN Charter. Outside the West, it's seen as a more complex problem arising from the breakup of the Soviet Union and the inability of Europe to resolve this issue. All of us must endeavor to understand and appreciate these different views and attempt to find a common meeting point so as to end this conflict after the predicted counteroffensive is concluded. US-China rivalry. Asia has become the crux of US-China rivalry. One thing is certain, Asian countries do not wish to be forced to manage competing pressure from these two sides. We in Asia don't want to choose between US and China. Many of us cannot make that choice because we have already made our choice, another choice, and that choice is Asia. We want an Asia that can accommodate the Indo-Pacific, the BRI, as well as the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. The BRI is a strategy to increase China's influence in Asia and Africa through economic means. We, the members of the BRI, have no security arrangements with China, nor do we intend to enter into any security arrangements with China. The Indo-Pacific is an evolving concept with unanswered questions. The APEC, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, is a structured regional organization which includes channels of dialogue between the US and China. However, on the other hand, the Indian Ocean is amorphous. There is no effective regional political system nor structures to deal with the economic or security matters. The only principles guiding the Indian Ocean states are the outcome of the Asian-African Conference, Bandung 1955, and the UN Declaration of the Indian Ocean as a zone of peace. These were again restated at the inaugural Indian Ocean Rim Association Leaders Summit in 2017. Therefore, in the absence of any structures in the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka convened Indian Ocean Defining Our Futures Conference in 2018. Then in 2019, the ASEAN adopted the ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific. The Asia-Pacific and Indian Ocean are distinct but closely integrated and interconnected space. Sri Lanka is committed to multi-layered connectivity in the Indo-Pacific. Furthermore, we also support Prime Minister Kishida's principles for peace and rules for prosperity. In keeping with the rules for prosperity, Sri Lanka will apply for membership to the RCEP with the aim of achieving a higher level of economic liberalization. Conclusion. In conclusion, Sri Lanka welcomes the G7's announcement that they are prepared to build a stable and constructive relationship with China. This is essential, as espoused by Prime Minister Kishida in New Delhi earlier this year, when presenting Japan's new plan for a free and open Indo-Pacific. I quote, "The approach we should take going forward is rule-making through dialogue that respects the historical and cultural diversity of each country, the equal partnership among nations. We appreciate this cooperative approach of Japan and give it our full support. It's crucial for the emergence of a peaceful and prosperous Asian region. We also support a dialogue between all Asian nations. In this context, Sri Lanka is the view that Japan, China, India and ASEAN should commence an open-ended dialogue among themselves and thereafter with the other Asian countries. This will be the first step in establishing a new framework for peace and cooperation in Asia. Thank you.